Everyone does this one. You advance a pawn. You offer it. The opponent hesitates. They take it, and suddenly your pieces flood through. It's not brilliance. It's physics. You traded material for tempo, for speed, for open lines while they're still developing. The concept here is activity. Give up wood. Get your pieces into the game faster. That's the deal. The danger? Sacrificing for nothing. A pawn is only bait if your pieces arrive with force. Otherwise, you're just down a pawn, and they're winning. When it works, you explode into their position before they're ready. Now it gets dangerous. You give up a rook for a knight, or a bishop. Why? To shatter their king's side, to remove their best defender, to rip open files straight to their king. The material count screams you're losing. But you're not. You're trading value for violence. This is about attack. They're up the exchange. But their king is naked. Your pieces swarm. Your queen invades. Their extra rook is on the wrong side of the board, and by the time it arrives, the game is already over. The trap is hesitation. This sacrifice demands aggression. If you trade the rook and play passively, you just lost the exchange. Attack immediately. Attack relentlessly. When you understand this sacrifice, you stop counting material and start counting threats. Looks simple. It isn't. You sacrifice a bishop on h7. The king takes. Now your queen and knight converge like predators. The attack feels unstoppable, but only if you calculate it exactly. 6 moves deep, every check, every forced response, one miscalculation, and the attack dies. You're down a piece, and you lose. The idea is forced sequences. You're not hoping for an attack. You're executing a surgical strike. Every move is forced. Check. He moves there. Check. He moves here. Check. Mate. The pattern is ancient, but the precision required is modern. The hidden danger is pattern recognition without calculation. You've seen this sacrifice work, but this position isn't that position. Calculate every line. When it lands, the king dies in exactly the number of moves you counted. Here is where precision becomes survival. You give up your queen, the most powerful piece on the board, and in return, you deliver checkmate in 3 moves. It feels theatrical, but it's just geometry. You calculated the king's escape squares, all of them, and found none. This is inevitability. The queen dies, but the king dies faster. The mistake most players make is hoping. They sacrifice and pray the attack works. That's not chess. That's gambling. You don't hope for mate. You see it. Every square, every piece, every impossible escape that doesn't exist. Miss one move, and the sacrifice becomes a blunder immortalized in your game history. When you see it clearly, the game ends exactly the way it was always going to. This is where most players fail. You sacrifice your last minor piece. For a pawn, it sounds absurd. A knight for a pawn? A bishop for a pawn? But that pawn is 2 squares from promoting, and your opponent's king is too far away. They can't stop it, so you trade everything, and you race. The concept is speed, not material, not position, pure calculation. You count squares. Your pawn needs 4 moves. Their king needs 5. You win by 1 tempo, 1 single move. The margin is brutal. The danger is miscounting. You think you're fast enough. You're not. The pawn gets caught 1 square from glory, and you lost a piece for nothing. Count again, then count once more. That is the difference between playing chess and understanding it. Now we enter the psychological zone. You sacrifice the exchange, rook for knight or bishop, not for an attack, not for tactics, for suffocation. You blockade their pawn structure. You plant a knight on a square they cannot challenge, ever. The position slowly dies, move by move, like poison spreading through their game. This is about paralysis. They're up material, but their pieces are locked behind their own pawns. Your knight sits on an eternal outpost, untouchable, immortal. Every piece they have becomes worse. Every piece you have becomes better. The rook they're so proud of, it guards empty files. Forever. The trap is impatience. This isn't a 5-move attack. This is a 40-move strangulation. You have to wait. Let them realize their extra rook means nothing. Let them understand they're losing with more pieces. At that point, the position collapses completely. This is survival instinct. You're losing. The attack is crashing in, so you sacrifice material to shatter their momentum. A knight, a rook, anything to break the coordination. You're not trying to win anymore. You're trying to breathe, to create chaos, to give them a chance to go wrong. The idea is counterplay. You can't defend forever, so you stop defending. You give something up and create threats of your own. Suddenly, they're thinking about your past pawn, your back rank threat, your perpetual check. The attack that was winning 5 moves ago is now unclear. The danger is sacrificing into nothing. If you give up material and create no threats, you just accelerated your own defeat. This requires nerve and precision under pressure. When it works, you turn inevitable defeat into a position they cannot win. Surely it cannot get harder than this. You sacrifice without full calculation. You feel the position demands it. The compensation isn't clear, the lines aren't concrete, but something in the structure screams that this is correct. So you do it. And 6 moves later, the position proves you right. This is pattern recognition at the highest level. You've seen 10,000 games. Your mind recognizes compensation before your calculation does. The initiative, the weak squares, the piece coordination. You don't calculate every line. You know the sacrifice is sound because the board speaks to you. The trap is confusing intuition with hope. Intuition is 10,000 hours of pattern recognition. Hope is a guess. You sacrifice because your subconscious has solved the position, not because you're gambling. When you reach this level, you trust yourself more than you trust the engine. And then there is this. You sacrifice everything. Queen, rooks, knights, one after another, forced, brilliant, unstoppable. The opponent has no choice. They take. And then they're mated. The whole sequence was inevitable from the first sacrifice. They just didn't see it coming. This is art, not just a win, not just a checkmate. A combination so perfect it gets a name. Anderson's Immortal Game, Tal's Geometrical Nightmares, Kasparov's Precision Poetry. These games transcend the board. They become legend. The hidden danger? There is none. If you see the entire sequence, there is no risk. Only execution. One inaccurate move, and immortality slips through your fingers like smoke. When you play a game like this, you don't just win. You create something that outlives the board. That gets studied, replayed, analyzed, celebrated. You become part of chess history.